Hello, my name is Nicholas Junker, and this video is for EDL 853, Special Education for Building Administrators, Module 1, Personal Introduction. A little bit about me. I'm from a small town in north central Kansas called Cuba, Kansas. It is close to the Nebraska border. I went to school there, a small school, 1A. It shut down in 2006, which then I went to Republic County High School in Belleville, Kansas. I finished up there at Republic County and then went on to Bethany College in Lindsborg and played football there and graduated there in 2014 with my wife, who is pictured here as well. Then our first job was in Larned, Kansas. I was the high school social studies teacher there for 2 years. I taught U.S. government, American history, world geography. I was also the assistant tennis coach, the assistant basketball coach, and the head high school softball coach. I then had a brief hiatus out of teaching and went to graduate school at the University of Kansas. And while at the University of Kansas, on the side, I was a long-term sub at Topeka Seaman. I was an elementary PE teacher there. And then I decided that things cost money and I needed to get back into teaching. And I headed back home, and close to home was Clifton Clyde High School. It's only about 45 minutes from where I grew up. I taught there for 1 year. And right around the end of that year, my mom got breast cancer, and a job opened up at the school that she worked at, which was Republic County High School. And so that is where I've been the last couple of years, and I will be starting my 6th year of teaching coming up this year, and I'm excited and learning about what is important in life and making sure that I do those things just as important as I focus on my job. So I work at Republic County High School in Belleville, Kansas, the place where I graduated from. It has a strong record of academic achievement. I have a lot of kids who get bachelor's degrees, certifications. Kids do really, really well when they usually leave our school. Our school culture I would consider very traditional. We have very traditional structures, very traditional schedule. The way in which we do our planning and our problem solving are in that same modality that has existed for quite some time. That is slowly changing as we're trending towards a younger staff. I mentioned a recent staff turnover. I would say that over the past 4 to 5 years, I've only been here, this will be my 3rd year, but over the past 4 to 5 years, we've had a considerable number of teachers move on or retire. And so that trend is definitely changing. So things right now that we're focusing on at Republic County, especially in our accreditation KISA process, our relationships and relevance. And a couple of things that I'm involved in with that is the senior project and also our seminar retooling. So all of those things are just little tidbits about how we focus and develop and build kids into 21st century graduates and grow them into people that can really compete in the 21st century workplace. And that's been a big push from our new superintendent. And he has done a really good job in his first year and a half that he has been at Republic County. So then branching off into our inclusive culture and questions. So the first one talked about what was the school leader's role in maintaining culture. The video that was from the Association of School Principals talked about encouraging courageous conversations. I think that's vital to the process, is understanding that we have to have open and honest communication, as I'll state later. And if we can't have that, we can't have open communication, then we can't have growth. And part of that conversation is you have to encourage collaboration among teachers. And so when we build and we grow and we understand, that has to have a place to occur. And I think that I sidebar that into my red font there as well, is we have to build structures so that way we can have that collaboration between all stakeholders, whether that's just teachers, students, but can also be parents as well. And they can be involved in every piece of the school. And I focus on responsive culture here is so we can focus on what we need to do, think about where we need to go, and then go there. And also, one of the last things I put on focusing on maintaining culture is, one of the first videos stated, is that encouraging use of circumstances and historical tragedy to inform interventions and understanding of all students. He was specifically talking about Native American culture and its understanding around the historical tragedy of that. But I think that's wholly appropriate for all students. Every person is coming from somewhere else with a different motivation, understanding, state of life, and if we understand those things, then we can really focus and improve all of our students' learning and achievement. So another piece of the question was, what do you do when your school lacks an inclusive culture? And so coming from that second article from DeWitt, it's stated, and I think that's one of the things that we focused on a lot in our school as of late at Republic County, is just sharing the most current research about how we grow and change and get better if we invest in inclusive cultures and understandings. And also, providing thought-provoking material. How can we drive the conversation among our faculty and among our students about what does it mean to be inclusive? What does it mean to be diverse, or focus on diversity as a staff and as a school? And it's a pretty important piece. And so, me as a specific school leader, things that could be done and come from the ASCD article, things like hiring staff that reflects the diversity of students. I think that's so important. If students have individuals that are like them, look like them, feel like them, share the same culture, share the same history, those connections, building those relationships make a huge difference. Secondly, is demonstrate respect at an institutional level. What do I do that shows the structures in our institution encourage diversity and inclusiveness? And we absolutely have to do that. And then, as I mentioned previously, creating a space for open and honest discussion. If we can foster that open and honest discussion, we can really make progress and growth. As they say, sunlight can be the best disinfectant. So then we move on to our question about how do we encourage advocacy among our teachers and among our students. And this is something that I've really focused on in my early work here through my master's at Fort Hays is how do we develop and build teachers who want to make their students successful. And I think some of the most things that I've had experience in my career are providing them an opportunity to have autonomy, giving teachers a say, building a buy-in and an understanding that kind of focuses on a couple of those sources that we looked at, is providing leadership opportunities for students and for staff, encouraging collaboration, encouraging comfortable space in which teachers can learn and grow, and also challenge and look at the status quo and say, this is what we've done, this is what we need to do, this is what we need to change. And I think that's important. We also need to make sure we're building structures for collaboration. So one of the things we're doing when we're retooling seminar this year that I've been in charge of is we're providing an opportunity for collaboration in where we're going to have a meeting time where each grade level grouping is going to be able to meet. And so you got to water the grass to make sure that you can that collaboration is effective, and we can share best practice while we do that. Also, the way in which we encourage advocacy is we're going to create individualized learning plans for students. This benefits all students. Every student has a place in which they are and a place where they need to go, and that's something that is vital for the growth of all students. And I think that kind of fits into the last, and I bolded it for a big reason, is you have to provide institutional structures which encourage individualized attention and planning. If we don't give it a place, or we don't foster and develop ways in which we can help students and drive them in an individual way, then we're not making the progress that we possibly need to, and we're not being inclusive. So here's some plans and strategies ensuring equitable treatment. The biggest one is you have to develop an understanding of your staff, your students, an understanding of your local community, the history, the culture, I would say the most important thing, and that's one of the things whenever I interview or have interviewed for a job, I want to know, what is this school about? What have they done? What are they doing? Where are they going? And then also, before you go on an interview, take a trip to the town. What does it look like? What's important to them? What do people find important to them? And with all of that information that you can pull and cultivate and survey, you implement responsive assessments. How can we develop an understanding of where we are or where we need to go without understanding what we are currently doing? And that will impact your planning and teaching. I really like that focus of the question from the Ministry of Education of New Zealand is, how does knowing about your learner change your environment, lessons, and strategies? I think that's huge. Knowing the history, knowing the culture, knowing the understanding, that's so important to be able to ensure that we're treating all students equally. And here are some steps to changing those negative assumptions about an inclusive culture. First and foremost, I think it's highlighting that all stakeholders have something positive to contribute to the school or classroom. Everybody's got something they can do that they can contribute to the process. You may not be able to bring everybody into the same place and drive them to the same conclusion, the same place, but they all can be part of your successful school if you drive them and say everybody can participate. Also, it's about building a collective understanding that all students can be successful. They focus in the video and really stated, and I thought this was important, that successful looks different for different people, different staff members, different kids. It can be at different levels, and it can be through a variety of different modalities. And I think that's the thing about most important thing about being inclusive is everybody comes from a different place. Everybody doesn't put forth the same understanding or the same way in which that they're able to evaluate, problem solve, and critically think in the same way. And so we shouldn't pencil them into that box that they have to do so. And then looking at going forward and how do we really look at and changing those negative assumptions, we have to change our thinking. Not why inclusion, but the question is, how do we include all students? Not just student A, student B, or student C from all different backgrounds. We have to make sure everybody plays an important role and a piece in our school setting. And we have to alert stakeholders of significant risks and future consequences for students when they're not inclusive. And so there was that list in the article that talked about how students felt when they were a time where they were included and a time where they were not included, and that the vernacular that they used to describe that, it was heartbreaking, especially those that were excluded. And so I think it's vital when you're looking at social emotional health of students. We want to make sure everybody's included, irregardless of culture and history and understanding. Everybody's got to play an important role. And then finally, that an inclusive culture is beneficial for all students. When you look at and you build and you understand and you drive an inclusive culture, all the strategies, the planning, the collaboration, all the group learning, they help all students. And so when you're developing and building those, I think that's the big piece that you have to push, is that being inclusive helps everyone, all students, all staff, and can drive your community forward as well. Here is my Works Cited page. Thank you for listening to my video.